everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name's Alexa Ray and welcome to another video. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you clicked on today's video, and you already know by the title of today's video what we are doing. This has been such a highly requested video on my channel for so long, and it's taken me so long to do it, and I'm so sorry, but we're doing it and I'm super excited. We are finally getting back into reading vlogs on my channel. Reading vlogs are some of my favorite videos to film on my channel because I just get to hang out, read books with you guys, talk about them, review them, and it's just a real fun time. For today's video specifically, we're going to be seeing how many books I can read within 24 hours, which is a little confusing. I'm gonna explain in a second. I filmed one of these videos back in December. I did a reading for 24 hours video, and we basically were trying to see how many books I could read in a total of 24 hours. I filmed part 2 of that video, and I know you guys have been asking for part 2 of that video. The footage for that vlog literally got corrupted. My SD card broke on me, which honestly, I have the worst luck with SD cards. It's not the first time one has broke on me and that I've literally bawled my eyes out because hours and hours of footage is just gone and I can't get it back. So that's why I never wound up uploading a part 2 to that video. But here we are. I'm so excited to finally be doing one again. I've done 24-hour readathons in the past on my channel. This one is going to be very similar to the most previous one that we did in December. I'm not going to be reading for 24 hours straight because I really suck at doing that. We are going to test out and see how many books I can actually read within a 24-hour period. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start the stopwatch on my phone every time we start to read, and then anytime I stop reading, I'm gonna stop the stopwatch, then we'll pick it up again once I pick up the book again. But the main goal of this video is to see how many books I can actually read within 24 hours, because I feel like when I do 24-hour readathons and I read for 24 hours straight, I'm not actually seeing or testing how fast I can read or how many books I can read within 24 hours. I'm just trying to stay awake for 24 hours. It is not easy and I always fall asleep, but I thought this would be really fun to test out how fast I can read, how many books I can read within 24 hours. That's what we are doing today. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to actually knock out some of the books off my January TBR. If you guys haven't seen that yet, I talk about all the books I plan on reading for the month of January, and I actually have them right here with me because we are going to be reading some of these books in today's video. First up, we have Shatter Me by Tara Mafi. This is a super requested book on my channel. I actually don't know if I'm going to read this in this video because so many people request like a reading vlog for this, and I think I'm gonna do like a whole reading vlog dedicated to this book. We have The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is book 2 in the Off-Campus series. Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie, another highly requested book on my channel. I don't know if I'll touch this one either today just because I feel like this book deserves its own separate reading vlog, and I feel like we really have to tackle the entire thing in its own separate video. We have King of Wrath by Anna Hong. This book I do want to read in today's video because I have been dying to read this. She's the author of the Twisted series. This book takes place in the same world as the Twisted series. We have Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This book is a book that I've been dying to read. This whole book series kind of tackles fairy tales, but they're fairy tale reimaginings, and they're usually twisted and dark, and they revolve around the villains in the fairy tales, and something about that is so intriguing to me. And then last but not least, we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is a super popular, hyped up book at the moment. I feel like everyone is reading this book. A lot of people say it is very similar to the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, which again, absolutely love that series. So I feel like I'm going to love this book, but will I love it more is the question. So these are all the books on my January TBR that we are basically going to be choosing from in today's video. I feel like I can read around 4 to 5 books within a 24-hour period. We're gonna test that theory, see if I'm right. Let me know what you guys think I can read in 24 hours. And with all that being said, we are gonna hop right into the reading vlog. We are going a little off schedule. I can't believe I just went on this whole spiel about my January TBR and the books we're gonna be reading in today's video. We are going to be reading some of those books in today's video, but we're not actually starting with a book that is on my January TBR. I know it's not gonna make any sense, but I can't help myself. I got a Kindle for Christmas. It's literally one of my favorite gifts ever, and I was actually thinking we could start with reading a book on my Kindle because I just got Kindle Unlimited like earlier today, and there are so many many books available on Kindle Unlimited. If you're not familiar, Kindle Unlimited is just like this monthly subscription through Amazon, and you get access to millions of books on here. At first, I didn't think there's going to be like any really cool books that I'd want to read, but when I was looking at the catalog, there's literally so many books on here that I want to read. So I thought it'd be fun to actually start out with a book on my Kindle. I've been eyeing the author, Sophie Lark, for a while now. I've seen a lot of other people talk about her and rave about her. They love her writing style and her storytelling. I thought it'd be fun to give one of her books a try today because literally all her books are on Kindle Unlimited, so I was like, let's try it out. So the first book we're going to start with is The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is supposed to be like an enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience, mafia romance. I've never read a marriage of convenience story, and I've never read a mafia type of romance book. This is also book 1 in the Brutal Birthright series. It looks like she has a lot of books out. It also looks like she specializes in mafia romances. So I feel like if that's the majority of what she writes about, she's probably really good at it, I would think. So I'm super excited. This has a story of Ada and Callum. I'm gonna call him Cal. So Ada and Cal, they both come from two separate families, two separate mafia families, it looks like, and they basically have to marry each other, I'm assuming, for some reason, and they obviously aren't too happy about that. So we are going to jump right into this. I love looking at the author's note in the beginning. It's like one of my favorite things when it comes to books. This book is for every person who's told me Ada inspired them to be strong. Ada is the unbreakable spirit inside all of us. She's the determination to laugh when life is hard and to never ever be anything but yourself. Stay rowdy, you gorgeous babes. Stay rowdy, you gorgeous babes. I love it. There's also a soundtrack list for this, which I absolutely freaking love. That's another one of my favorite things when it comes to books. I feel like having a book playlist allows readers to connect to the storyline and connect to the characters more. I think it also helps with understanding the mood better and the changes throughout the story. We have the Brutal Prince official playlist right here. Okay, so you flip it, and there's already artwork. I love that. Okay. One more thing that I noticed really quick is that it is a dual perspective read. So we're jumping between Ada and Cal. And I love books that do dual perspectives because you get a better understanding of the entire story, of the characters. We're gonna jump right into it. Chapter 1, Ada Gallo. I'm so excited. We're gonna start the timer. We're jumping right into it. I'm doing my 1 hour check-in. We've been reading for exactly 1 hour, 58 seconds to be exact. I don't even know where to start with this. Half of me is so pumped and excited right now reading this book. I am absolutely obsessed with it. And then the other half of me is like super upset and disappointed with myself that I didn't pick up a Sophie Lark book sooner in my life. Her writing style is just perfect to me. I am obsessed with her writing style. I'm honestly flying through this book super fast. We're on chapter 6, page 65. I've read 65 pages in 1 hour. I feel like that could vary and differ because I am reading on a Kindle, but that is like super fast for me to get through 65 pages within just an hour. I am obsessed with this entire story so far. I think I mentioned it earlier in the video, but they both come from mafia families. Ada comes from like an old school Italian mafia family, super big family, lots of big brothers, stuff like that. They're all super protective of her, so Ada comes across as like a really big badass because she's just trying to prove to everyone in her family and everyone around her that even though she's a girl, she can still handle things herself and she can take care of business. She's just a total badass. Like, I'm obsessed with Ada's character right now. And then Cal comes from an Irish mafia family. They're more like a newer rich family, so only a few generations have passed with their family having like a lot of money and power. Yeah, their story is quite wild. There are a few scenes in this book that are like a little bit too descriptive, too graphic for me, and not like, I don't know how to like say it. It's a mafia romance, so there's obviously going to be like fighting and stuff like that in here, and there's just certain scenes, like fight scenes, that have just been really descriptive. I'd read like a section where like someone would be getting hurt or something, and I'd just be like, ooh, like. Other than that, I am absolutely loving this book. I'm loving the storyline. Ada and Cal have just found out that they have to get married because their families are arranging a marriage between the two, and basically they're doing this so both families can come together and become like one big powerhouse. There's also a political plot in the middle of all of this, which is really, really interesting. That's another reason why the families want to come together. Ada and Cal are absolutely against it though. They don't want to get married. I feel like when it comes to arranged marriages, no one wants to be in arranged marriage. marriage, so they're both very, very upset about it. They both despise each other because before even being set into this arranged marriage, they had actually run into each other a couple times and they had some very, very bad experiences together. So right off the bat, they don't like each other, they hate each other, they do not want to get married. I don't know. Cal gives off the badass vibe, but he's also like in politics, so he has to come across as a very classy, clean-cut person. I'm trying to make this so I'm not spoiling anything crazy for you guys. I'm sorry if I'm not making sense at all. I'm super excited and super happy about our first book read. We're gonna keep going. I'm 19% through this book, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm actually very, very determined to finish this book tonight. We are gonna keep going, and they both just found out that they are going to be married to each other. Okay guys, we have been reading for a total of 5 hours and 29 minutes, and I just finished our first book of the reading vlog. I actually cannot believe how fast I finished this book. I'm amazed, honestly, because I feel like on average it takes me around like 6 to 7 hours to finish a whole book, but this one only took me 5.5 hours. So I'm really proud of myself because that is probably like one of the fastest times I've ever finished a book. But also, this book, what a way to start off the new year. It is my first read of 2023 and I am absolutely amazed. I am totally blown away. This is not like anything I thought it was going to be like. We finished up The Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. Again, I am absolutely blown away by this entire storyline and these characters. This is definitely one of like my favorite books of all time. This was just such a cool and different story, and again, it is like my first mafia based type of romance, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to, but it was really good and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the storyline and the characters. This is definitely a 4-star read for me. I loved Ada and Cal's story. I love the enemies to lovers in it. They really were like enemies to lovers. They seriously despised each other like so much, and I really appreciate that when it comes to enemies to lovers in books, because I feel like a lot of the time books will be like enemies to lovers, but the characters will only hate each other for like 2-3 chapters, and in this book that just wasn't the case. I feel like they genuinely disliked each other for a large portion of the book, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The twists and turns this story took, like, I'm still not over how it ended. I just wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting the huge turn of events and the plot twist, and what happened with Ada is just so crazy. I did not expect any of it, but I absolutely loved it. I loved the character development. I loved the entire storyline. There was just some crazy stuff that happened in this book, but I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to move on and read more of her books, especially in this series. It's like the whole series kind of goes through all of the siblings and their love stories, so I'm really excited to move on and see what happens. It was a super easy read, and I think because of that I was able to read it at a faster pace than I normally can with books. But this was a really good one. It is 4 stars for me. It would be a 5-star read for me, but I am being a little bit more picky with what books I give 5 stars this year, and although I loved this book, there was still just something missing from it. I don't know what was missing from it, but it felt like something was missing, and 100% will go back and read more of her books. I already downloaded Stolen Air and put it in my library, so I am all set for that. I already downloaded Anastasia as well, which I believe is like her newest release, and I hear amazing things about that. We have finished our first book of the reading vlog, my first read on my new Kindle, which is super exciting. I think I'm gonna start another book because I'm not really tired, and to be honest, my sleeping schedule is all whack right now. If I push myself, I can probably squeeze in one more book tonight. We're gonna start a new book. I don't know. Hold on. So I already know what book I want to read next, because since we read a mafia romance, enemies to lovers romance, I'm kind of in the mood for another dark, twisted type of read. So our next read for the vlog is going to be Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is a book that I feel like I have literally been talking about for so long. As soon as I spotted these books in Barnes & Noble like a few months back, I knew that I was going to be obsessed with them. I just haven't read them yet. I feel like I've been waiting for the perfect time to read them, perfect time to get into these dark, twisted tales. After starting with Brutal Prince and loving that story so much, I feel like we should just keep it going with like the dark, twisted tales. I feel like I sound like a whack job right now. I'm digging the vibe. So we are gonna stick with it. We're gonna jump in to Hooked. This is a never after novel. It's the first one in the book series. I don't know what to expect with this. So many people have told me it is like such an incredible book series. I'm really excited for it and I feel like I'm going to love it, but I am sort of nervous because it is a dark fairy tale reimagining. But basically this story revolves around Hook from Peter Pan. If you're familiar with that Disney story, Hook is the villain in Peter Pan. So it's going to be interesting to see how I enjoy this book with him being the main character and basically like the protagonist in this story when he's always been the antagonist. I'm super into Disney and fairy tales and retelling, so I think this is going to be really interesting and fun. Once upon a time there was a little boy, his belly full of laughter, his life full of joy, until one day something changed, stripped his innocence away, the hole inside making space for the devil to come and play. His dreams gone forever, he grew up way too fast, an endless night of crocodiles and watches made of glass. He grew into a villain, the taste of vengeance on his tongue, craving to make his enemies pay for the misdeeds they had done. Instead he found a darling girl and refused to let her go, for what better way to make the man pay than to steal his little shadow. I'm so nervous. Like, I don't know why I'm so nervous. Okay, are we about to go fall in love with the villain? I don't know. I feel like we are. This is gonna be really interesting. It is a shorter read, I feel like. It's a dark fairy tale reimagining, so it's not going to have like those fantasy aspects in it, I don't believe. This is also another dual perspective book, so we're reading between the perspectives of James and Wendy. I'm gonna stop rambling. We're gonna start the timer and jump right into this. Just hit the 9-hour mark, so we've been reading for 9 hours so far, and I think I've been reading this for like 3-4 hours. So we're on page 150, chapter 22. This book is literally not what I expected at all. I am totally like in shock right now with what is happening and how this storyline is going. And I mean that in the best way possible, as in I'm literally obsessed with this book and I feel like I've already mentally rated it 5 stars in my head, but we're only halfway through, so that obviously could change really quick. Just a little summary, but non-spoiler summary of what has been going on in this. I mentioned it earlier, but this is a reimagining of a fairy tale of Peter Pan, and basically Hook is the main character in this story. He is technically like a bad guy in the story, I guess you could say. I don't know, like I feel like he's really not a bad guy, but really the bad guy in the story is the hero in the normal story. James is trying to get back at this villain slash hero by being with Wendy, I guess you could say. We're only halfway through the book, but you can already see that James is struggling between what he should do and what he shouldn't do. On one hand, he wants to choose revenge because that's what's been on his mind his entire life. But on the other hand, he's torn between love. This is really interesting. I don't even know like how to explain it. I feel like I'm still trying to figure it out too, but I'm loving this. This is literally one of my favorite reads already. I love all the little connections it has to Peter Peter Pan. Literally all the characters from Peter Pan are named in this book. The bar that James owns is called the Jolly Roger. Peter in the book owns an airline called Never Airland. It's just really cool so far. We're seeing James get really irritated whenever he hears like a clock ticking. Although the story is very, very different from Peter Pan, it still has like those connections, and it's a really cool story so far. I am super obsessed with James and Wendy, which seems so weird, and it sounds so weird to say, but I'm literally obsessed with their story so far. I don't know what's going to happen. I feel like this is going to have some like crazy twisted ending. I feel like this is definitely a fast-paced read. I feel like I'm definitely flying through it pretty quickly. I only have half of the book left, and I think I'm going to call it a night and finish it up tomorrow just because it is getting really late. This is my book light. Doesn't it look like little like bug antennas? One more thing I want to talk about before we go to bed, just because it is so cute. The book playlist in this book is absolutely on point. We have some killer songs for this book. I will talk to you guys when I wake up. Oh my goodness. Guys, I just finished up Hook. Chris and I are about to head out to a coffee shop to do like a little work day. I just finished reading Hook though. I woke up early. I spent all morning reading. We are now at 10 hours and 53 minutes and I have finished this gem of a book. I feel like so many people don't even know this series exists, and I feel like it's such an underhyped book. Oh my gosh. Easily a 5-star read for me. It is my first 5-star read of 2023. This book and everything about it is just like the craziest thing. Like, it's the craziest story, the craziest plot twist. Towards the end of it, I even started crying a little bit because like there's this super emotional scene, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, this book is pulling out so many emotions in me, and the plot twist at the end between James, Wendy, and Peter, I am shook because it is not how I expected it to end, and this book overall is just not what I expected. I highly recommend it, especially if you're into fairy tales and stuff like that. This is such a cool reimagining of Peter Pan, and you really get a good look into who James is and why he is the way he is, why he becomes the villain in Peter's story. It was really cool to see how like the roles were reversed. I don't even know how I'm going to move on from this book or this story or these characters. The way we watch James struggle between what he should do, what he shouldn't do, if he should choose Wendy over the revenge. This is such a crazy story. It's one of my favorite books ever. I could not recommend this story enough. It was so beautiful, and I was not expecting it to be that good. I'm gonna head out. We're gonna go to the coffee shop and run a few errands, and we're actually gonna start King of Wrath by Anna Hong. I'm gonna start the timer when we start. We're at 10 hours and 53 minutes. I am so excited for this book, guys, because I mentioned it earlier, but this takes place in the Twisted series world, and that is one of my favorite books series of 2022. I loved everything about that series, as well as book 4, my favorite book out of the series. It tells the story of Christian Harper and Stella. Christian Harper is friends with Dante, who this whole book is about. So I'm excited to see if we're gonna see Christian and Stella pop in this story. In Twisted book 4, we see Dante and Vivian pop up in their story. So I'm excited to see if we'll see them in this book. We just got home. I'm very tired. I literally want to just take a nap right now, but I can't because we're going to a hockey game. I've been reading now for 16 hours, which is crazy to even think or comprehend. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. I thought I'd wind up filming this vlog over the course of like a few days, but it's actually been 2 days. It's been a long 2 days. I love reading. It is like my favorite thing to do. It's my comfort. It's my hobby. But sometimes when you're just reading for like that long in a row, your brain just starts to feel like mush, and you forget like what the real world is, I guess you could say. We are crushing it. We are actually a good chunk through this book. So far I've been really enjoying it, but it's not like what I expected. I don't know. I feel like Anna Hong is the queen of writing enemies to lovers because these two characters genuinely hate each other. With that being said, I just feel like there's something missing from it. I don't know what, but it feels like something's missing from the story. It's also kind of like a slower type of read, a slow burn. I don't even think it's a slow burn. It just feels really slow to me. I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on in here. I am really enjoying it so far. I'm gonna guess it's probably going to be between like a 3 and 4 star read for me. I could just tell it's not going to be a 5-star read for me because again, it's like kind of slower, on the slow side. I'm not really into slower read. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm slowing down and I'm just getting tired. Dante and Vivian's story though so far is really interesting. We're kind of finding out why they despise each other because we kind of get a look into their relationship in the Twisted series, and you're kind of wondering the entire time like why do these two characters hate each other so much. So we're finally finding out why they don't like each other and their whole situation and their arranged marriage, which is just quite crazy. A lot of things that Dante does for Vivian throughout the story is really sweet and cute, and I do love their whole dynamic. I love their relationship, but it's a really good book so far. I'm just really tired. So we're gonna keep going, finish this up, see what happens. 16 hours of reading. We are getting so close to that 24-hour mark. I'm gonna try and hit it today. Sounds crazy, but we're gonna try for it. Throughout the story, Vivian has this connection to astrology and the stars. Dante takes note of it, and he winds up taking her on a date that has to do with the stars and astrology, and it's so cute because they live in New York, and if you are from New York or if you're familiar with New York, you know that you can't see the stars as clearly, especially in New York City with all the light pollution. So Dante does the cutest thing for their date. This quote is literally just like one of the many quotes in this book that I'm obsessed with, but you can't see the stars in New York, Dante said, so I brought the stars to you. And I don't know why, I just think that is such a cute and adorable little quote. Dante's character throughout this entire story, I'm just kind of going back and forth with, because one second I really love him, and then the next second I like can't stand him because he's just so frustrating. This book, like the first two we read, Brutal Prince and Hook, the male main character just can't make up his mind. He can't decide if he wants to choose revenge or whatever it may be, or if he wants to choose the girl that he's in love with. And that's like Dante's big problem in this story, is that he doesn't know if he should choose revenge or Vivian, and it's just so frustrating. He's being a dumb boy, honestly. I just want to share that book quote with you guys really quick because I thought it was really cute. We just finished up King of Wrath by Anna Hong. This is the first book in the Kings of Sin series. In all honesty, I actually really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed getting to know Dante and Vivian more and getting to know their story more, because I mentioned it earlier, but we see them in the Twisted series and they literally despise each other, yet they're engaged. So you're kind of wondering like why does this couple hate each other so much? And if they do hate each other, why are they getting married? So the whole storyline was pretty crazy, and again, we're watching Dante struggle between revenge or love, and just a whirlwind of emotions. It's a roller coaster. It's definitely different from the Twisted series. I feel like it's not as like, it didn't feel as dark and twisted as the Twisted series, but it still had like a little bit of that feeling in there. I think one of my favorite parts of this book is definitely watching Dante and Vivian grow closer to one another, and just watching Dante like open his heart up, I guess you can say, to like the possibility of being with Vivian. Literally throughout the story, we just watch him become more and more protective over her. Like whenever she needs him, he literally is rushing to be by her side. He's always there. It was just really cool to watch him evolve into that. I am like a huge sucker for when book boyfriends are super protective and like always there to save the day. I feel like it's so cliche, but it's just one of my favorite things to read. Another thing I really enjoyed about Dante's character in this book is how he's always there to support Vivian and also stand up for her. This very much reminded me of Twisted Lies. Although the relationship is different from theirs, the characters seem very similar to Christian and Stella. I feel like Vivian kind of goes through a similar problem with her family that Stella goes through with her family, and watching Dante be there to support her and stand up for her and kind of push her to be better. Vivian's character reminds me of Stella's character a lot, and I think that's why I loved her character so much. I also thought it was super cool to see Stella and Christian pop up in this book. In Twisted Lies, we see Dante and Vivian pop up a few times in their story, and we basically see those same scenes in this book, but from a different perspective. We're seeing it from Vivian and Dante's perspective instead of Christian and Stella's perspective, and it was so cool. It just felt like like a slow read. Like it wasn't even a slow burn or like a slow buildup, but for some reason it just was like slower for me. The last half of it definitely picked up and I was like super into it. I enjoyed this book. I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved being put back into the same universe as the Twisted characters. So I would definitely say this is another 4-star read for me. Not a 5-star because I feel like there was something missing in this, kind of similar to the Brutal Prince book. There was just something missing in this that didn't make me like fall head over heels in love with it, but I still really enjoyed it. It's definitely a 4-star read. I definitely recommend it, especially if you love the Twisted series. You'll absolutely love their story. We finally finished up our 3rd book of the reading vlog and we actually have time for one more book. I don't know if we'll be able to finish the entire book within the 24-hour mark because we're at the 18-hour mark right now. So I don't know if I'll have enough time. Our next read is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. This is like a super popular book talk book at the moment. A lot of people are loving this story, raving about it. A lot of people say that it's super similar to the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, which I absolutely am obsessed with. I'm obsessed with book 1, The Deal, Garrett Graham and Hannah Wells. So super excited. It's like a hockey figure skating romance, and I guess the main character, Nate Hawkins, is supposed to be like the best book boyfriend ever. He's supposed to be better than Garrett Graham, which I find hard to believe, but we are going to try it out and see. Basically what happens, Anastasia here is a figure skater and something happens at their school where figure skaters and hockey players end up sharing a rink. There's already tension there, you know, little enemies to lovers going on because they don't want to share a rink. Anastasia's partner actually winds up getting hurt and Nate Hawkins has to step in and become her partner. That's all I really know about this book. I don't know too much about it. I just know that people are obsessed with it and rave about it. So we're gonna try it out. We are gonna keep going with the reading vlog and see how much of this we can finish before the 24-hour period ends. Okay guys, I just got back from Chris's hockey game. It is so freaking late. We've hit 21 hours of reading. So much has happened in this book so far. I'm shook. I went to Chris's hockey game and I actually was able to read a good chunk of this book up until he got on the ice, because then once he came on the ice I like couldn't even focus on reading. I wanted to just watch him play. This book, I'm literally in shock with every book I've read in this reading vlog so far. I am blown away. None of them have been what I expected. They're all so different from what I thought they would be like. I thought this was going to be so much more different than it is. Nate Hawkins is giving Garrett Graham a run for his money because I think he may be my favorite book boyfriend in the history of book boyfriends of all the books I've read. Nate Hawkins is literally perfect. Everyone compares this book to the Off-Campus series, specifically The Deal, and I totally understand it because the vibes are very, very similar. I mean, it's a hockey romance, so the vibes are going to be there no matter what. I think I'm enjoying this more than The Deal. The way Nate Hawkins is obsessed with Anastasia, and it's not like that unhealthy, toxic obsession that you typically see in a lot of books. I feel like I can't even call it like a healthy one because I feel like any obsession probably isn't healthy for you. He chases after Anastasia in the most like healthy way, I guess you could say. Perfect boyfriend on paper. Every move he makes, every word he says, literally perfection. I'm seriously convinced he can't do anything wrong, honestly. I feel like Anastasia is really going through it in this book. We watch her struggle to be the best skater that she can be because she really wants to go to the Olympics, but her training is really getting to her and her diet is really getting to her. Nate is always there to help her and support her and push her to be better. Even though he's technically going through it too, I feel like what Nate is going through in the story is kind of overlooked, but he's also going through his own thing. He has a lot of pressure on him with hockey and his team and his family. We are gonna keep going though, see if we can finish this before the 24-hour mark is up. I'm just obsessed with this and I'm in love with Nate Hawkins. That's what I'm gonna leave you guys with for now.